Taoiseach, this morning the Society of St Vincent de Paul published their Working, Parenting and Struggling report, which is an analysis of the employment and living conditions of one-parent families in Ireland. Its findings, Taoiseach, are an indictment of your government's record when it comes to poverty prevention and alleviation among single-parent families, many of whom, as you know, are at work. The report finds that 1 in 11 working lone parents were living below the poverty line in 2012, but it finds that that number jumped to 1 in 5 in 2017. The report finds that the high cost of housing and childcare, combined with low levels of income, are making it impossible for families to make ends meet. It finds that the living standards of lone parents in this state are amongst the worst in Europe. We have the second highest rate of income poverty, persistent poverty and severe deprivation among 15 other EU states. That's shocking, Taoiseach. What's most shocking is that the majority of one-parent families, the vast majority of whom are headed by women, I might add, are in work. And these families are like others. They're people who get up at the crack of dawn and still struggle and fail to meet their and their families' basic needs because of a cost of living crisis that leaves hundreds of thousands of people struggling and living in fear of any type of extra financial burden, a car breaking down or the washing machine packing it in. These are people who work hard to provide for their families, people with the modest aspiration for a decent, happy life, and yet they can't plan for their future. How could they when they can't make ends meet in the here and now? Low pay, especially in the context of the soaring cost of living, is the real problem, Taoiseach. Workers on low wages, in many cases in insecure employment, are being asked to find money to pay for extortionate rents, crazy insurance premiums and crushing childcare costs. And it's not good enough, Taoiseach, to brush all of this aside, as you frequently do, with the promise of a meagre tax relief at an ill-defined period in the future. Because these are families that need not a hand out but a hand up in the here and now. These are people who work, who want to continue working to give their family and their children a better life. So I have two questions for you, Taoiseach. What do you propose to do in the here and now to address the cost of living crisis that is crippling these families? And when, Taoiseach, will you introduce a living wage?
Taoiseach.
Thanks very much, Deputy. I think at the best of times, being a parent is an enormous challenge, having to provide for yourself and also for your kids. And I think that's particularly different and particularly difficult for lone parents who do so without the support of a partner, without a second income, without somebody to share in the burden and cost and time taken by childcare. In terms of what we're doing, to answer your question, Deputy, we're helping parents, all parents, but particularly lone parents, to improve their living conditions by creating jobs. The number of lone parents at work has increased. Unemployment is down by almost 2/3, down again today, as you'll know. We're increasing welfare payments that had been cut back in the past. Are now being restored, an increase kicking in to the one-parent family payment and the job seekers transition payment only in a few weeks' time. We've introduced the working family payment to replace the family income supplement, which again allows lone parents who are working to keep more of the money they earn and to have their income topped up so that they can avoid poverty. We're reducing the cost of childcare, have done that already, and will enhance that further with the introduction of the affordable childcare scheme later in the year. We're increasing pay. The minimum wage is increased and pay is being restored for people who are public servants and is increasing across the private sector as well. And we're reducing the cost of medicines, prescription charges being reduced, GP visits being extended, already free to all children under 6, will be extended to another 100,000 people from April onwards. So those are the things that we're doing to reduce the cost of living, to assist lone parents into work, to ensure that they have more money in their pockets. And we're also focusing very much on education as well. We've restored, for example, the cost of education grant, because that record numbers of people from non-traditional backgrounds are now participating in higher education. In terms of the report issued today, and I have immense respect for the St Vincent de Paul and worked with them on many occasions, particularly when I was Minister for Social Protection, but I don't think it tells the full picture. So I did ask this morning for the statistics from the Central Statistics Office, the CSO, which actually collects the official statistics on poverty in Ireland. And what they show is that the consistency poverty rate, that's the official measure of poverty in Ireland, did jump a lot between 2012 and 2013. Jumped from 18.4% to 26.3%. So that was in 2013. But every year since 2013, for each of the past 4 years, consistent poverty and deprivation among lone parents has actually gone down. Fell to 23.1% in 2014, a slight increase, 23.9 after that, 23.2 after that, and 20.7 in 2017. So the figures that we have, most recent year that we have is 2017, are down on 2013. And that demonstrates that the policies that we've been implementing, helping people get back to work, helping people into education, improving welfare, reducing the cost of childcare, are working. And I would predict that when we see the figures for 2018, they'll improve again.
Deputy McDonald.
So it's not unexpected but almost depressing that that's the tone of your response, because the measures that you are taking are clearly not working for hundreds of thousands of people across the state, but in particular for families headed by a lone parent. The Irish Times, Taoiseach, carried a very interesting series on child poverty. If you haven't read some of the articles, I'd recommend them to you. In one article, they compared the standard of living of a mother of two from the Midlands with an appropriate counterpart living in another jurisdiction, and it made for incredible reading. The woman concerned is at work, and such are her struggles to ensure that her family can get by. She actually rations the number of times that the kids are allowed boil the kettle. Imagine that. Imagine having to count the number of times that you boiled the kettle in your house. That's how tight things are, Taoiseach. Many of the interventions that you cite there are in effect subsidies really for low pay employment. I'm asking for additionality now. I'm not going to debate with you the ins and outs of parenting and the challenges of it, or I'm not going to trade statistics with you. I'm simply going to tell you something that you should already know. And that is that more needs to be done because people are struggling and people are suffering. So can I ask you again, what by way of addition are you going to do now in terms of the cost of living crisis experienced by families across the land? And secondly, when, Taoiseach, will the living wage, not the minimum wage, the living wage be the floor, be the basic income in this jurisdiction?
Taoiseach.
Thanks, Deputy. The reason why you don't want to trade statistics is because you don't want to talk about facts. And no amount of individual stories, no matter how genuine they may be, will change the facts. And the facts are that for the past 4 years, for each of the past 4 years, consistent poverty and deprivation has been falling in Ireland. Deprivation rates have fallen for lone parents, and child poverty rates have fallen from 12.8% to 12.7 in 2014, 11.5 in 2015, 10.9 in 2016, 8.8, one of the biggest falls in 2017, and they will fall again exactly because of the policies government is pursuing. More employment, better wages, better salaries, reducing the USC, access to affordable childcare and subsidised childcare, reducing the cost of medicines, capping rents. And yes, I accept that more needs to be done. And we're doing more, and we'll continue to do more. In relation to your specific question on the living wage, there is a living wage in the United Kingdom. There's one in Northern Ireland, which is a place you'll know well. It's actually lower than our national minimum wage here in Ireland. And we have a minimum wage in Ireland, which is the second highest in the Western world, and it's calculated independently by the Low Pay Commission. What you want to do is to change it in such a way that it's calculated without any reference to employers. You want to exclude small businesses from having any role in contributing to how you calculate the minimum wage. You want to disregard the impact on the border counties, for example, of a huge differential between minimum wages in North and South. We have a minimum wage here in Ireland. It's higher than the living wage in the UK and in Northern Ireland, and it's calculated fairly.
Deputy.